Leadership is a critical element for every small business owner. And it's more than just the techniques and strategies. So today we're going to look at what is underneath it all that makes you the kind of leader that you are, and how do you become a better leader? Hey everyone, welcome back. I am Mike Sutton with BeBuildHave.com. And I work with first generation business leaders who are getting burnout on all the doing and are ready to just start being happy and successful with their businesses. Now, yesterday's video, I really focused in on that being versus doing piece. And today I'm going to dig into the leadership. Leadership is an area where there's a lot of teaching and training about the techniques and strategies, what to say, how to say it. Today, what I really want to dig into is what's beneath it all. What is it about you that makes you the kind of leader that you are? And if you're not getting the results that you want, what can you do about it? And I'm going to base this conversation on this quadrant that I put together. If you're watching the video, you can see it, but if you're listening to the audio, I do also have handwritten show notes, and I'll make the image of that available to anybody who wants it, where I lay out this entire quadrant with all the characteristics and thoughts that I had about it. But the first part that I'm going to start with in the bottom left-hand corner of the quadrant is the reluctant or the resistant leader. And this is, if you've got a small business, you are a leader. But if you're reluctant or you're resistant to leadership, maybe you're keeping yourself in that solopreneur, one-man band, or self-employed kind of situation. And you may have some natural ability or potential for leadership, but you may not have a lot of experience. And the other question is, do you have any desire for leadership? And I think a lot of the people who are reluctant or resistant leaders would say, well, I just want to do what I do. I don't want to be responsible for anybody else. And that's totally cool. You can absolutely build a business that way. I think some of these other leadership elements come into play that if you can appreciate that you are a leader to your market, to your prospects, to your clients, then maybe someday you get to the point where you're comfortable leading others within the business. Maybe not. It's no big deal. Again, totally up to you. But there can be scale in your business if you're able to bring other people in. So just something to think about. It could also be driven by fear. Maybe you want to have a bigger business, but you're afraid that maybe you won't be good as a leader. And so you are resistant or reluctant to enter into it that way. Again, nothing wrong with being in this position. It's where probably a lot of people start. And I know, it's where I started. And from here, you can go to many of the other quadrants, or you can just stay where you are. It's totally cool. But I'm going to keep going through the quadrants, and I'm going to group the next two because they are, in a lot of ways, opposites, or the differences are in the contrast. And it gets really interesting. So on one hand, you've got the pushover, and on the other hand, you've got the dictator. Now, on the surface, you look at these and it's very easy to think that the pushover is very other-centered because you're giving in, you're giving other people what you want, you're serving them, and that the dictator is very self-centered. Listen to me, do what I say, it's all about me and what I want. I think that reality is actually a little bit reversed. And so to dig into some of the contrasts, where the pushover, again, it's this idea that I'm responsible. I'm afraid, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I've got low self-esteem or low self-confidence. And I really feel like I need to be a people pleaser, or I'm worried about being nice so that people will like me. Again, it's not everybody who's in that pushover category, but it tends to be part of the pattern. On the dictator side, it's you have to listen to me. You're responsible for our success. You need to do what I say if we're all going to be successful. And so it's very much a focus on what other people are doing and whether they're listening to you and whether they're listening to you well enough or whether they're performing or not. One thing that they could potentially both have in common, though it manifests differently, is a question of self-confidence. For the pushover, a lot of times there's low self-confidence associated with that. For the dictator, it could show up as arrogance, which is possibly overcompensating for low self-confidence, but not necessarily, but it can come across as arrogance. And so I think what you end up seeing is where the pushover tends to be overly persuasive and preoccupied with consensus building. And they, consensus building is great, absolutely. But if you ask their team, a lot of times you'll hear the frustration that like, yeah, I like that I feel listened to, but I really just want the guy to make a decision already. And I know that I've definitely been in that situation. On the dictator side, he's over reliant on an authoritarian style of leadership. And you might even see some micromanaging there. The real challenge with the dictator is you actually could be getting pretty good results. So you may not have a lot of incentive to change. Could another style of leadership be more effective? Potentially, but you might be getting good results, and you might be a little hardened to change. Like, this is the way I am and I'm not going to change. Okay, I totally get that. That's fine. But if you find that you're getting bottlenecked, if you find that you're kind of reaching the maximum level of growth that you can get to, you may want to take some of these things into account. And the advice is going to be very similar for the pushover, which is really look at the issues of self-confidence. And again, that may not apply to the dictator. It usually applies to the pushover. But the key to both really is building self-awareness and increasing your emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is going to be largely tied to your own emotional health and your own self-awareness. And so if you want to move out of either of these categories, I would strongly suggest you start by focusing on self-awareness and emotional intelligence and emotional health. So now we can move to our final quadrant, where we look at the effective, inspiring, influential leader. And this isn't speaking necessarily to his leadership style, the techniques and strategies that he's used for leadership, because he could borrow techniques and strategies from the authoritarian leader, from the persuasive leader, from a servant leader role. But it's marked by balance because he knows when to pick which tools, when they're going to be effective. He's capable of great strength, but also capable of compassion and tenderness. This leader knows how to be nurturing without necessarily being coddling, because it's not about what he needs, it's about serving the people that he is leading. This leader is going to end up being pretty strong in the team building awareness area because he is very clear on his goals and objectives. It's easier for him to get his team on board with that. And it's not about making them fall in line. It's about sharing that vision and inspiring them with that vision in an influential way. And again, this leader is also marked by a high level of self-awareness and a high level of emotional health and emotional intelligence. And so this is the area where, whether you're on the dictator side or the pushover side, I think you want to move into. And like, I was a pushover for a long time before I started to work on these things, self-awareness, emotional intelligence. And so I get the challenges in changing from either direction, but I think the pushovers probably have the greatest opportunity to become even stronger leaders, leapfrog the dictators, and move into that effective, inspiring, influential space. So what I would invite you to do is spend some time thinking about what's your natural leadership style. Which of these quadrants do you fall into? How does it serve you? How does it protect you? And how is it holding you back? In what ways are you frustrated by that? If you're getting the results you want, don't change anything. Your business is perfect. You're doing exactly what you want to do. Stick with it. But if you feel like you could be growing faster, if you feel like you could be doing more, if you feel like you're a little bit frustrated because you're not necessarily getting the results that you want, spend a few minutes to look at these quadrants and figure out where you fall in and what you might do to move towards that more effective, inspiring, and influential leadership quadrant. And the image that I used for my own show notes with my handwritten notes on it, I'll make that available to you in the show notes page for this episode. You just head over to bebuildhave.com and find that, and I'll be happy to give that to you. I do also have available the 20-minute guided meditation that I've been working on. I've been getting great feedback for it. So if you are in a position where you're working to cultivate more positive emotional energy, working on overcoming blocks around money or sales or management and leadership, and you really think like I do that it's important that you can get into that positive emotional space to really get the best results and just feel great about your business, then just email me, mike@bebuildhave.com, and I will send you the link to download that recording immediately. As always, the show only grows if you share it with other awesome people. So please consider sharing your favorite episode. You can do that either from bebuildhave.com or from my Facebook page at bebuildhave. And until we speak again, be the person, build the business, and have the successful life that you want. I'm not happy with that. Because this person is capable of great strength and control, but also of tenderness and I blew that. That is not at all what I wanted to say. And it really is marked by balance, being able to utilize whichever side of the technique is going to be more effective. Why do I stumble on this? I talk about this all the time.